Good morning. Welcome back to When Pigs Fly. I am Patty. I'm joined by Tracy and Renee. Good morning, ladies.
Morning.
Morning.
All right. Today we thought we would just get into your souls. We're going to talk about ways that you can start communicating with your soul because we recognize that when you're new on this journey, you're too busy being what I call the who man, the human, which is who are you, man? Who are you really? Well, you're really a soul and a body. And so I'll share how I started communicating with my guides before I really truly believed they were there supporting me. When you're new in this, you hear it and you may not everybody receives information the same way. This is very important. Some people see very clearly, they get shown visuals. Some people hear or they channel, and it's your experience is going to be different. Number one, you need to get to a place of stillness. You can't be in fear, you must be present. And stillness can just be in a quiet space by yourself. Okay. It doesn't need that you have to be in deep meditation, because information, when it comes in, it can be subtle, it can be an impulse. And if you keep feeling the same impulse, but it doesn't make sense to you, that's usually your guides going, go do it. Now, for me, what I do is I have chosen not to make big decisions that are going to get into my head. So and I've had situations present itself where it's like in the old energy, or the old Patty, as I say, would have gone into problem solve mode. I used to wear that badge of honor. I can solve a problem. I'll dive in and go into that freaking rabbit hole until there's a solution. Well, that's the wrong part. Now you're using the thinking mind and you're not using the support of your guides. And so if something comes up and I truly don't know what to do, my first thing is, okay, I need to get still. And I say, I'm curious. What solution exists that I'm not seeing? What solution exists that I'm not seeing? And I do it with curiosity, and I might write it in my journal. I am curious. I would love whoever's listening that's part of this team, because different guides will come in and help you depending on what it is. And I'm curious about a solution. And here's the cool part. Sometimes I had to do nothing. It got resolved. The situation changed. The person changed their point of view. You know, it got smoothed out, or there was a step. This is important. It's not that old programming of I need to see the whole plan out in front of me, step after step. It comes in, you get the piece you need for that moment. And that's the only step you need to do. And then that's how you begin to build the trust. Just do that one step that comes to you. And it can be an inspiration, it can be a whisper, or somehow somebody that knows something about what it is you're curious about kind of shows up in your space and starts talking about the very subject. Well, stop going, oh no, this is a coincidence. These are how your guides work. Coincidence, synchronicities. This is how they work. I lost my keys. I wonder where they are. And then this is the challenging part for all of us. And when you're new, let it go. Put it out there as a curiosity, give it over to your guides and let it go. And then in moments of stillness, for me, a lot of times these solutions come in the shower. It's a cleansing moment and whatever it is. And all of a sudden, oh, wow. And it's that I never would have thought of that. Those are your guides helping you and giving you. Mine do it through music too. I'll hear, I'll be looking for a solution to something and a song comes in my head. I'm like, okay, that's funny and obnoxious at the same time, but was also the solution to what I was looking for. So that's one of the ways that for me in the beginning, I was able to build trust and understand that wow, there is support there. And now it's a steadfast rule. If something's not choiceless, if I am making a decision and it's not absolutely choiceless, I don't make it. I go, okay, I need help with this one. Show me what my next step is, or what do I do? And then you let it go and allow, because again, the thought is the electricity, and then you have to allow it to come in and then get into receiving mode. Get into receiving mode. Don't get into the rabbit hole. Don't go get it. Allow it. And it's a steadfast rule with me. And I have to remind myself, I was raised, be independent. No, you got guides, man, and they're awesome. And they're always in your best and highest good. You got nothing to lose. Hang in there, ask for the guidance. It's there. So I'll hand it over to Renee.
I like that. And for me, when I started like it, I would ask the question. Like I didn't really realize that, there was something else there. I think, for me, I was saying, "Oh, okay, God, you have to help me out of this. You have," but what I realized after the fact was I was like, you have to help me with this. You have to, but I wasn't willing to receive anything. I was a horrible, horrible receiver. And I would, yeah, see, and I would say that, but I really wasn't. I would be, I'd have like what I always call like the little blinders on. They'd be like, no, you have to help me with this. Like, cause I'm saying it out of anger, by the way. For this, I don't want to be in this situation, blah, blah, blah. And what, over time I started to realize was I wasn't looking really for an answer. I think I was in this angry place, this whatever. And even though I was asking, God for this, there was a part of me that didn't really believe in the God that I was taught in church anyway. So I didn't really want to hear the thing because, well, he's just going to judge me anyway. And he just thinks that I've sinned by being born. So it was all this stuff. And something shifted within because like I would be so angry, and exactly what Patty said, I will never forget this moment of I was just really upset and whatever. And I was like, you know what? I just need help getting rid of this anger. And I was washing dishes and I said, I need help, getting rid of this anger. And in that moment, I really got into stillness because there was nothing to think about but doing the dishes. And I realized afterwards, like, wow, I got like so still and so quiet. And when that happened is when I felt, because then I felt this anger starting to come up, even though I said this anger was coming forward, but I was very still. And I remember thinking, well, this is really weird. And I remember this hand coming on my back. Nobody was home but me. This hand, I mean, this huge hand, by the way, came on my back. And I just felt so calm. So whatever. And then it was just let it go. I just heard my thought, because everybody always thinks, oh, well, when you're speaking the soul, there's something, coming a different way, or you get this or that. For me, it was my own thought. It felt like my own thought saying, just let it go. But I knew somehow it wasn't my thought because I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, okay, I'm just letting this go. And I just would never forget like this. I don't even know, this tingles, this rush, this something came over my body, and it was never really the same after that. Like there was that point and realizing then that the stillness was there and something else was there. And that's why then I started to like, okay, angel, spirit guides, whatever, like help me with this. And I said, help me receive. And what was crazy was somebody would want to give me something and out of my mouth, and I would be like, oh, no, no, no. I'd want to be saying that. And all of a sudden my mouth would be like, oh, thank you so much. And it was such an uncomfortable. I was like, oh my God, did that come out of my mouth? Like, oh my God, like I can't just receive this. And then I again would feel this like peace over me. Like, yeah, you can receive it. So it's really interesting how these, exactly what Patty said too. I would get a ton of stuff in the shower because I would be asking all these things. Well, I'm still, I've got this quiet space and all these things would come in and I'd be like, oh my God. And like I'd get out and I'd be writing them down or whatever, because I'd have to remember that. But a ton of answers would come. And then I finally realized, like, before I was thinking something, like I'd be like going to ask a question and you're just thinking it. I wasn't saying it out loud. I would be thinking that. And before I would finish that thought, another thought would be coming in. It would be the answer to that.
Yeah.
Or like Patty said, all of a sudden somebody would start talking about, I'd be in the grocery store and I'd hear people over, two people talking about something. I'm like, oh my God, that's my answer. So I would like be looming in the, like listening. It's like so
You're
crazy.
playing with the apples.
Exactly. Which I believe it. So it was crazy, or then, like you said, a song would come on or, something. So it's all these little things that, like you said, Patty, it's not for everybody. It's going to be completely different. And what really, when I would question myself, because I'm sure a lot of you are out there and like, well, I'm not getting answers. I'm not going to, I finally started to do, I would take a necklace or just a ring on a string, a washer on a string, whatever. And I would hold it up and I would be like, okay, what I used to say was show me yes. And I
Yes.
really didn't want yes from my body. Like later in life, they were like, don't ask your body, because the body is a lot of times governed with the human element, the history files, like Patty
Yeah.
says. So what I learned to say was I would hold the, necklace out and I would say, okay, my higher self, I would usually be like my higher and future self, join forces together and show me yes. And in the beginning,
Pendulum. Yeah.
yeah, you can use the pendulum too. Yeah. And the beginning, it would be a really slow whatever.
Yeah.
It's always different for me. It's like sometimes if I was going to do that again, I would always say, show me yes. And sometimes it would be a circle. Sometimes it would be back and forth. Sometimes it'd be this way. And I learned to ask yes and no questions.
Yeah.
So if you want to say soul, show me yes.
It'll
Okay.
show you.
And they'll show you the yes. And then you don't have to say show me no, because the opposite of that is no. Don't go into don't go into that rabbit hole. And then I would just start to learn yes or no questions. Or I would ask yes or no questions. And at one point I started to close my eyes. And I would, because I would everybody show me yes, and I'd look at the yes. I'm like, okay. And then I'd close my eyes and I'd ask the question and I would see, what am I feeling? What am I, what thoughts coming to me? Because it's very easy to think, well, I got yes because that's what I wanted it to be. But when you've got something else giving you the validation
Yeah.
to that, and I would be like, okay, well, I'm thinking yes. And I would like look and I'd be like, oh my God, it is, it's yes. I'm like, okay, I was right. And eventually you put down that tool because you're really basically giving your power to that
Yeah. To the
pendulum or
tool.
that
Yeah.
whatever. And you've got to like listen to you. But start with the yes and no's, and that then grows and grows. And you start to recognize and you realize these thoughts that are coming in aren't you. They're coming in your mind, in your thought, at least for me. So it was your thought. But they would be words that I wouldn't necessarily use, or I'd be like, well, how would I know that? I wouldn't have
Right.
thought that. So for me, that's what really set it free, into really ask the soul or whoever, the angels, whatever. And that's really what works for me.
Yeah. And it feels new.
Yes.
It's all we can tell you is that remember, this is all about feeling and getting out of the thinking mind. It feels new. And you're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be paying attention to, and don't get frustrated with yourself. And again, practice receiving. This is a big, big part of it. And it can be, can you receive a compliment? Can you let somebody buy you a cup of coffee? Can you, right? And that is super uncomfortable at first, but it's true. When you let that go, it's true. You find yourself just going, thank you. And for those of you who are, and I think I've said this before, but anybody who has a problem receiving, if you have a problem receiving a gift, just say to yourself, just say thank you without feeling the need to reciprocate, because if you reciprocate, you're depriving the giver of the joy that they have in giving it to you. And then you give, when you give, that you also, giving and receiving is the same energy, because when you give somebody else a gift for a different reason, you receive that joy of them having receiving it, right? So it's really important, practice receiving, because we have free will and we've got to ask for the help. They won't intervene if you don't ask, right? Tracy, what do you got on this one?
Well, I was thinking, because another word we could use of listening to your soul is, crafting your intuition. And I pretty much do this in my daily life now for fun, and because it makes life so much easier. I mean, I dress intuitively, I drive intuitively, and I kind of just throw it up. It's almost as if I wake up and I can see myself in an outfit. And sometimes I'll argue, like today, I'm like, I already have a different necklace on. Why do I got to change my necklace? Change your necklace. Okay, I'll change my necklace. So you can have fun with it. And I mean, obviously I've been doing this for quite some time, but you can start with not a big life lesson or oh my gosh, I need an answer here. Do something fun that the answer doesn't really matter. Like, am I supposed to wear that purple shirt or the pink shirt? At the end of the day, if you can't hear, you don't know. But I think it's a good fun way, because I find if you come at something with some fun and passion, it sometimes streams in a lot more quickly and not a lot more clearly. And I do, if, we're taking a road trip, I'm like, okay, do I want to take 95 or 75? What feels good? 75 feels good. You know what I mean? And then maybe I'll pull it up on the maps to see if there's any traffic jams. So I'm just giving a few examples. That is call it what you want, listening to your soul, calling in your guides. Oh, and a fun little story. I was in Savannah a couple weeks ago, and I said, oh, I hope we can get a spot relatively close. And my oldest daughter goes, well, call in your parking angels. Like, don't you always call in your, and I said, wait, you call them parking angels? Because I do all the time. And normally
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't, growing up, they're little kids. I'm like, I need a parking angel. And she's like, Mom, I always use the parking angels. And it's one of those things like, oh my God, my kids don't think I'm totally like, you
Yeah.
know, and they
I
use it and they see that it works. And then
yeah.
they're calling me out like, Mom, you taught us that. You call your
Yeah.
parking angel. So there's so many examples
Yeah.
of fun. I call them parking angels, traffic angels, literally
Yeah.
all the time. It's my active conversation. If they're just all around me all day long, hey guys. So that's one way to infuse fun. And then another trick that really helped me when I was getting really pretty in-depth messages. Like I want to see what's going on in someone's body, show me, or my body or someone else's. I started saying, give me words that I don't know. Because then, and of course I have to Google stuff all the time. And that's such a great way that that's such validation that you're tapping into a higher intelligence than your logical brain. And once you do that a few times, it really it accelerates that connection with your soul, with your intuition, with your guides, because you get so much more confident in
Yeah.
the intelligence you're receiving. And then, like Renee said, oh my gosh, all day long. I don't even know I do it. People call me out on it. I'll be walking the beach and a wave will come up and I'm like, that was such a nice hug from that wave. That was I'm like, you didn't feel that like hug from that wave, and this is kind of crazy talk for some people, but I'm like, yeah, thank you. And then you get even more, right?
Yeah.
Once you acknowledge them, realize them, gosh, they're literally everywhere if we
Yeah.
just are
It's a
open.
relationship. It's a relationship, and you allow it. And the more you allow it, the more it works with you, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always, and that's what I think is sometimes people don't recognize exactly what Tracy said. When you really are open to it, it's amazing all the things that you see, you feel, you hear. Like it is just shocking. Like you're walking down the street and somebody just waving, and you're like in a car that's driving by, like, I don't know that person, and people are like, I don't know the person. I'm like, I don't know half the people, but they're waving, I'm like, hi. Like I'm doing, and people are like, why did you do that? But because that's what I felt. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pour that light and everything out. But it comes back, it multiplies, 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 and you're feeling and recognizing as you're walking, oh my God, that tree was just like, sure, page on the street, when there's leaves on them, they sort of like gravitate with you. Like, it's really sort of
Oh, yeah.
interesting. Yeah,
I,
isn't it? Like, so
like you
crazy.
feel palm trees waving at you.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's so many things out there that when you're really open, you will start to recognize you are getting messages all the time. And I
Yeah.
think you said this
Yeah.
in the beginning, like Patty, like, okay, you get that feeling of like, oh my God, like, I don't know, that doesn't feel right. Should I do that? I'm not sure. If you're questioning, chances are that you're so going, no, but your human body is going, yeah, I think this is what I want to do, because logically we go into the history files like, well, this is what it should be, or this is how, like, I'm looking for the answer on my brain, what my brain thinks it should be. Let go of your whole aspect.
Yeah.
You don't know. That's why we're looking for this help. So let that whole component go, and you'll be shocked at the answers that and how much continue to come. And thank them. If you get a thought in your head and it will not leave, it's a continue. That's a message.
Then you go,
And
thank
and then
you.
it won't leave until you say it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love that, Tracy. And you could, I use something similar, not give me a word. I love give me words I don't know, but I say, show me what I don't know. Show me what I'm missing. Show me, yeah, show me something I'm not, what am I missing here? But, and you do, and have fun with it. What are you feeling like when you go into your closet? Okay. And by the way, you're already doing this. You're already doing this, but now Bring yourself into awareness and thank your guides. Thank you for picking out the blue shirt today. Thank you for picking out this necklace today. Because what is it doing? It's in your best and highest good. And here's the other thing. I want to add this on. This is the special sauce. Show me how to get here. Show me how to, or something better. Get rid of the limitation because the limitation comes from the history file. I always add or something better. Show me how to get there or something better because your soul usually delivers bigger and better than the human. The human, the human has limitations because it's living in the history file. When you get into relationship and start to trust that and like Tracy, make it fun. Make it fun. You're going to get in the car. Parking gods, my friends laugh at me, but they always know, like, but they think it only works for me. And I'm like, why aren't you freaking doing it? How come you always get the bat? And I'm like, well, because I ask for it. Where I get in the car, I ask for it. Going over here, and use it. That's a fun one. It does work, by the way.
It does.
It does work, by the way. You got to let go of your resistance. And then you go, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I love that, Tracy, like making fun out of it because there's so many things like when they don't matter and you're just, you make it a fun game per se. And then you don't realize you're raising your vibration and you're bringing your awareness up. So all these little things are like, okay, I'm leaving here now. I'm going to arrive at this particular time. Knowing that, okay, typically, the human brain says no. Just play with that. Just like, I love that whole thought because that's bringing your human mind out of it because now it's just a game. Okay. And now it's like, something fun to do. And then it's really connecting in all of your parts. Like, oh my God, they all sort of like get together because they always want to have fun, right? All those little inner children or whatever, they're all want to have fun. So that would be like a great way to do that. And then recognize all this stuff, even if you don't at that moment, at the end of the day, sort of look back and recognize all the times and ask your soul, the guides, whatever, like, okay, show me the things that I missed that, were there.
Yeah.
And I love this because I've been doing this since Tracy said this a while back that like, and I'm freaking awesome. Like, oh my God, look at all the stuff that I had. Look at all the stuff that I created. And of course I get, if you're saying you don't get messages, congratulate yourself because you're not going to get them.
You put a stop sign up. You just told your guides to shut the fuck up.
Yep. Exactly. So say, of course I communicate, I hear clearly, effortlessly, whatever it is, shift that whole thing and you'll get the message, you will know, you will hear, you will feel, you will see, you pay attention, be very aware, and you'll be shocked at what comes forward.
And what's cool is it's about, you hear strengthening the muscle of when you can strengthen it in times of ease. It's funny. I just drove home from Savannah and everyone was going 75 because all the aggressive drivers, I'm like, that is not my reality. Switch me into a different, and I say it kind of like, yeah, that's really not going to happen. I really do. And then I'm driving, I'm like, oh my God, everyone's driving 75. This is like the Twilight Zone. And then you can almost hear your guides like, she got it. She paid attention, like
yeah,
pondering it. I'm like,
saw
oh, this is awesome,
delivered.
And it's because I don't know if anyone's on the roads anywhere, but no one's driving. Like people are most driving very aggressively. So I even get surprised. I'm like, oh my God, I totally just reality jumped, or I created a little segment of reality.
You
of
got
my
space
own.
all of a sudden. Yeah.
So you strengthen that, but then in times, what I want to hit here is in times of hardship, I get knowings of the big picture. Like, listen, this is what's happening right now, but I want you to see this is what is going to play out. So hold the faith, stay strong, keep going, because I'm showing you the end, or, the further down the line. And it does. It's like, okay, I've seen this before and it does help. And, because I do believe we'll be coming into some challenging, opportunistic times. Those are the same words. They're great opportunities, could be challenging. That's what I do. Even if I'm in somewhat of a shit show, I'm like, I see why. I got it. You've trained me of how to be in this situation and see the why and the what. So strengthen that muscle.
And let's talk about one other way our guides help us. And when we might be a little stubborn, not receiving, when you're off freaking track. When you're off the train track and you've become a salmon swimming upstream, why isn't this working? Why isn't it? Your guides are going, you're way, way off the rails. And in that moment, you slam on the brakes and say, stop and thank you. Thank you. Show me where to look next. And you've got to recognize when you're salmon swimming upstream and the reason you're hitting obstacles. Why isn't this working? Why is this breaking? Why is this falling apart? When stuff keeps blowing up, ask yourself, am I trying to force myself to keep going down a trail that's not serving me in this moment? And your guides will, and sometimes, and it'll keep getting, their message will keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger until you find yourself in a full on, like, bang, okay, now I hit the wall. Now I have two choices. Do I want to keep hitting my head against the wall, or do I pick my head up and turn completely? Because usually I use the analogy of a fly trying to get out of a window, buzzing and buzzing for hours when the door behind them is open. But and if you're that fly, catch yourself, and then that's a great time to engage your guides because they're probably going, thank God, finally, we've been trying to get you to turn your head around. So notice when you're a salmon swimming upstream and you're not letting go of an old pattern. Like right now, this is a great time to focus on that, Renee.
And I like what Tracy said earlier. When you're playing with that stuff, when you're in that, time of need and everything seems like it's going, crazy, really, if you can't see it like that, okay, what I would usually say is, okay, this looks like a total shit show and it feels like a shit show. Thank you so much, but I know this is going to come out better. And because we're again going into the history files of like, well, this can't be. Well, in order for us to move forward and to go into a new direction, to go into this new, what they refer to as the new species of, the human being, in order to do that, we have to let go of all of the old stuff, who and what we've been, how we act, all of that aspect. Well, of course it's going to feel uncomfortable. Of course it's going to be like, well, what the hell is happening? This isn't anything I know. That's the time that you recognize, oh my God, I'm moving forward. This is a total shit show. I can feel it, but okay, I have the faith that this is going to turn out. And go ahead, give me some little, things that tell me or show me. And then you'll see these little things, or you'll get a great song. You'll be like, oh, okay. So you do know it's always going to come out in the red, but continue to ask for that guidance or for validation, whatever it is, because it really makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And you can start with, and make it fun. It's true. That's where you build a relationship. That's where you build your trust and your faith in that they're there and you're fully supported, like beyond. When you really have that self-realization that the support is beyond the scope of your thinking brain. It truly is. It's right. It's way beyond. Tracy, as we were winding down here, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, just basically, why wouldn't you want it to be? That's crazy. What are you talking about? And then I live in the world of, why wouldn't you want, like, bring on the fairies and the pixies and all of the crazy, like the more I can have in my world, the better. So I always like to say that to people, like, why wouldn't you want to live in a world that's full of guides and angels helping us, directing us always for the good?
Yeah. And know that it's for you. Don't start taking polls in research, because now you shit on your guide's shoes. And don't start taking polls in research because it's in your best and highest good. And that's the trust is, okay, this is my marching orders and it's exclusive just for me. And yeah, when you're able to put those back-to-back experiences together, that's when, and it's true, then when something challenging does come in front of you, you can then you can just use the same process. What am I not seeing? Give me new words.
Can I
Give
add
me
one
new
more
words. Yeah.
funny thing here? When people, because my husband does like to, oh yeah, you're in your angels or your guides. And I'm like, oh, your Google, your Siri. I'm like, who the hell are they? How the hell does Google or Siri know anything about anything? Like, that's a bunch of bullshit brainwashing. So, and then
But
there's me. I've got to come in with the Oh, yeah.
Thank you for saying that. And we can throw in WebMD. Just throw in WebMD.
Exactly. Who
Oh,
the hell's that?
yeah.
Anyway,
Ask your guides. They got their advice is foolproof and it's in your best and highest good. Well, wow, that was a quick 30. Thank you so much, ladies. We gave them a lot to think about, and we're going to challenge all of you. How are you going to play with your guides today? So, this wraps another episode. Thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing it where you see fit, and we'll see you next episode. Bye.